Hello everyone, we are back at my base today. I thought since I spent a day away from here building something at David's base, I would come back here and kind of do a base tour 2.0. For this one, I'm actually going to be showing you the behind the scenes of all of my contraptions in my base, show you all the redstone behind it, and try to kind of explain what's going on. So I guess we'll get to it. And hopefully I do an alright job explaining everything. So first off, I thought I would bring us to the watermelon, sugarcane, and pumpkin farm. This was a farm that I actually designed myself. And it's pretty simple. It's probably the simplest of things that I've built. And you'll actually have to excuse my flying around. I thought this would be easier to do in creative mode. So that's why we're flying, so you can get a better look at it. But basically the way this works is there's a redstone clock here. And what this has is two hoppers that feed into each other. And there are a set amount of items in here. So every time this fills up the other hopper, this comparator will fire into this stone, which then fires this piston and retracts this one because this hopper is empty. So once this hopper empties, this comparator will turn off, like it just did. This one turns on and extends this one. So as the redstone block here moves, it'll line up with this redstone, which then activates this repeater and this repeater, like you just saw. And what this is a pulse limiter. So basically what this does is it sends off a short pulse by basically sending a signal this way, and this delays it, so it'll still get something of a pulse. So it'll send a pulse this way and delay the stream coming through. So when this moves again, it'll send a pulse through this, which connects here. This moves off and turns off this redstone. So this redstone activates this contraption, which is the pumpkin farm. This one's sugarcane. And this one is the watermelon. And from there, it's basically just a matter of simple torch towers and activating pistons. So for this one, there's just a long line of wool, and all of this wool is behind pistons. So this redstone comes and activates this repeater, which puts power in this block, which then turns off this redstone torch. And basically it just flips this signal. So this torch activates this redstone, this torch activates this block, which activates this redstone. This torch activates this redstone, and this torch activates this block, which activates this redstone. And then it all activates these pistons. These towers work largely the same way, except for they line up exactly. So basically this repeater, again, turns on this block, which turns off the redstone. So this torch powers this block, which powers the repeaters all the way across. And again, each piece of wool is behind a piston. And it's the same all the way up. And the water behind is what keeps the soil tilled for melons and pumpkins to grow. So yeah, it's just a matter of basic torch towers. The other circuit you see here is each of the farms has hoppers lining the bottom. So as things get harvested, they fall into the hoppers, and the hoppers bring them to a central chain of hoppers that then get put into this dropper. And there's nothing in there now. But if there was, this comparator would fire, which would activate this redstone. And right now I know it's just a dot, but really what it is imagine it's 4 ways, and it just fired. So what it does is it turns on this redstone, which activates this block, which activates this repeater, which when a signal comes to the comparator will turn that back off. And then this activates the dropper. So it shoots an item into a stream of water, and that stream of water carries it into this item elevator, which comes up into here, and into another line of hoppers, and then this is a small sorting system. And basically the way this works is there's a set number of items in here. So there are sugarcane, and then buttons that are named so that nothing can stack on them. And essentially what happens is, since this is filled up with this item and then these buttons, only this item can go in it. And then when it reaches a certain number of items, this comparator will turn on and send a signal. It'll send a long enough signal that this redstone activates. And when this redstone activates, it powers this block, which powers this repeater, turns off that torch, and since this torch is powering this block, it stops this hopper from letting things drop in. So when this block is turned off, the hopper is activated, and then this cart can pick up whatever is in it. And then the cart's purpose is basically just to divvy up the items somewhat evenly. And I have this 3 times, so once for sugarcane, once for pumpkin, and once for melon. And then if anything happens to fall in that I don't want, like say I dropped a torch in or something overflows, which with silos this big, it shouldn't really be an issue. But in case it does, it should bypass, come into here, and then we have another automatic dropper, and that will drop onto this cactus, which will destroy the item for me. So this is the tree farm that I talked about at my base. And you could see there's a minecart that comes around, and that's what went under the dirt and picks up saplings. And it's very basic, just powered rails, and it zigzags and covers the entire distance so that it picks up any saplings that might drop. Comes in here, goes into a hopper here, and that hopper goes into this chest here. And I'm in spectating mode right now, that's why I can see through the blocks and move around. But that's the system for my tree farm, and it'll pick up anything that drops on the ground there. So I could drop a sword and it would pick it up and throw it in that chest. So I guess it's more or less just like a automatic trash picker-upper, but it's for saplings. While I'm here, I guess I might as well show you the baked potato system that I have set up. It's just this chest down here, which is connected again to a long string of hoppers, and then a long water stream. And before I actually had 3 stacks down here. So there was potatoes, carrots, and wheat, and I had them all come down from up top. But after I got my sorting system, I could take that all out. So I got rid of the other 2 sorting, but I left this sorting system in just because there's no reason to remove it. But that system takes out all the potatoes, puts it in this furnace, and I have blocks of coal, so hopefully I won't run out anytime soon, and if I do, I guess I'll have to mine my way back in. But it cooks all the potatoes for me, and then this dropper automatically dispenses them, or I guess drops them, into this water stream, which just comes down, feeds into the hopper, and then gets ejected into that chest. So it's a very simple system. Nothing terribly redstone heavy, but kind of explains the whole system there and why I haven't really changed it to make it automatically go in my system yet. Which I'm toying with that idea. I just haven't decided if I want to do it yet. So here's the super smelter that I showed you in the base tour. And the first thing you might notice is that there's slabs everywhere. And the reasoning for that, if you don't already know, is that mobs can't spawn on slabs. something to do with their programming makes it so that the fact that it's a half step up makes it so it's impossible for them to spawn on top of this. And honestly, I should probably slab all the hoppers as well. But I haven't had anything spawn up there, and I think it's lit up well enough as well, at least up here. So it should be alright. But the way this works is this hopper, well, there's an item elevator over here, and that carries items into a hopper, which brings it along this line. And so when this hopper gets an item, this comparator turns on, which turns on this repeater, turns off this redstone, which deactivates all of these blocks, which turns on all of these torches, redstone torches, which then activates all of this redstone, and this is a long process, but that turns on all of these repeaters, which turns off this redstone and turns on these repeaters, which then turns, I think it gives a flash of these redstone torches, which then allows one item to pass through each of these. And what that allows it to do is evenly distribute along those chests. When it evenly distributes along the chests, then they can evenly distribute into the furnaces, so no one furnace does all the work. So when the furnace is done smelting, this minecart with the hopper in it picks up all the items from all the furnaces that are smelted, puts it in this hopper, and then into this chest. And right now I don't have anything to smelt, so it's not running at the moment. But that's more or less how it works. It's actually pretty complicated, but once you get it all figured out, it's not too bad at all. So here is the sorting system. This is probably the biggest redstone undertaking I've ever had. And it took me a long time. This is a huge room that I had to clear out. And I think the only room I have that's bigger would either be the tree farm or the watermelon, pumpkin, and sugarcane farm. But this was a huge redstone undertaking. There were a ton of hoppers, a ton of comparators, and it took a long time, but it was well worth it. And these sorting systems are all the same as what's in the melon farm, with the comparators in the redstone and the items in each. The numbers are a little different depending on the item, because each item is assigned a signal output. So certain items might have fewer. I think I just haven't put saplings in this, which is why it's only showing 1. Like this one has 2. And I'll throw 2 more in there. This only has 1. But it works exactly the same, just on a huge scale. Over here I have the item elevator that goes into the hoppers, and these come around all the way, and then they have to turn to get around the back of the silos, and I'll explain how the silos work in just a second here. The hoppers come all the way around, over the top, and at the end here they drop down, and come all the way across here. And then once they get here, I actually had to come out an extra bit because redstone was starting to interact with them and it was getting really backed up. And I wasn't actually getting anything sorted, and that was a big problem. Took me a little bit to figure out what the actual problem was. But yeah, then this comes all the way around. Then comes down here. And I guess you can't see it, but then there's another automatic dropper that drops onto another cactus, so any junk items get destroyed. But I think I'm actually going to make a second level of this, probably on a smaller scale, because there are certain items that I'd like to sort out that I haven't put on here yet. So I'll probably be changing this at some point, but I just kind of with the potatoes, I haven't decided if I actually want to do that or not. But the things I'm really proud of in this are my sorting system, are my silos that I added to the sorting system. And the reason for that is this is my own design. I didn't look this up somewhere. So this is actually the way I did it, and it took 3 or 4 versions before I got it the size I wanted. And it's very compact, especially when I have it stacked on itself like this. But I'll try to explain just using the 2 layers here. But basically the way it works is, here's the chest, and there's nothing in it right now. But if it did, this comparator would light up. But it would not send out a signal because of this redstone block actually blocks the signal of the comparator. So it can only put an output to this repeater when the signal it's getting from this chest matches the signal it's getting from this redstone. And that's essentially how all of these work. It's just a matter of how I wired them so that they could stack. Because you can't put a comparator on top of a comparator, there has to be a block. So each level uses that exact same theory, that redstone theory. It's just a matter of getting it to stack and work well with itself. And it ended up working perfectly that a repeater can sit on top of a redstone block without turning on. So there should be, yes, there's a repeater right here, and that's on top of this redstone block. But this works the exact same way, with a redstone block putting out a full signal strength into this comparator. And again, there's nothing in this chest. But that comparator will send a signal into this block, into this repeater, into this redstone, which powers this block, which then turns on this redstone lamp. So that's how I have the lamp set to automatically turn on only when the chest is full, rather than when there's any item at all in the chest. And that allows me to know if I'm close to full, like I am on iron here, or not iron, stone. This one's full, and this one is very close to full, extremely close to full. A little glitch there. So I know with this one not to get more stone, or that I don't really need it. So if I get more, I shouldn't bother with throwing it in here. So that might actually be one of the first items that I test to see if it junks it for me, or if it screws up my entire sorting system. So yeah, that's how the silos work. And the ones in the melon farm work exactly the same way, just on a larger scale. But they're exactly the same way, and it works really well. And I think Mumbo Jumbo probably uses a similar silo in his base on their current server, but I couldn't find a tutorial on how he did it, so that's how I came up with these. And it took me 3 or 4 tries to get it down to the size that I really wanted it at. And then it was taller than what I needed, and then I had to somehow fit in the sorting system without interfering with the rest of the redstone. So this was a bit of a challenge, which is, I think, why I like this base and this room so much, because it, like I said, it set the tone for pretty much the entire rest of the base. Alright guys, thanks for watching. That's pretty much all the redstone I can think of in my base, at least at the moment. I hope I explained everything well enough for everyone. I know I probably jumbled my words, or maybe talked too fast at some points, so if you have any questions, I guess leave them down in the comments, and I'll try to keep track and answer anything that you might have. But that's all I've got for today. So, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. You can still you can still... Why are there...